Cool. All right, so intro to Sinatra and MVC, right? These are the swabats. I'm just going to read them at you for a little bit. Cool. So look, you're going to be able to explain what MVC is, at least hopefully, right? We'll review these at the end. What is Sinatra? Why do we use the MVC pattern? What is this like convention over configuration? You're going to hear this a lot as we get into frameworks. We're going to do just one model that's going to inherit from active record. Usually I poll the class about something stupid you guys want to build. I mean interesting and fun. And then we just kind of move on with that. That's going to be every single lecture after this. Today I'm just going to build books because I need to like not distract you with something cool, fun, and interesting. I need it to be like boring so that you understand what's happening. Is that fair? Everything else is just going to be ridiculous. Like if you like look through some of the other stuff, it was like Murder Face, there was like Rapper's Delight. We built like a bunch of weird apps. Either way, we'll do a lot of that this week and next week. All right. So we're going to do one controller to one route. A lot of this should be very familiar, but my goal is that you understand what you're writing and why you're writing it, rather than, hey, I got the labs to pass. And I'm like, cool, but do you know what's happening? Like, nope, but I got the green light, so I'm good. I'm like, oh, go. But here the point is to understand, right? What is like this param hash and how it changes, and then implementing this ERB template, and then finally practicing some file structure, and then once again connecting REST and CRUD. If you look on the staff side of the house, it literally says hammer REST into their brains, because this is like pretty important and it takes a long time to understand. So you're going to hear me say the same things over and over and over again. The whole point is that you can get this convention down so that you can start building more fun and sexy apps. But you need to have the basics down. Is that fair? Cool. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Great. Super fast review from this morning, right? We talked a lot about this like TCP, HTTP, HTML, IP, and then TCP IP again, right? The idea is that if I'm sending something over the internet, there are more than, say, a dozen users of the internet, and therefore it needs to be somewhat unified. If only so that as many people can understand it as quickly as possible. Is that fair? So that's why this convention over configuration happened. What that means is I'm going to follow a convention as opposed to build out my own custom thing so that as many people as possible can understand what it is that I'm building and add to my code base as quickly as possible. So let's take a quick example of that, right? I talked a little bit about this earlier, right? ESPN, right? ESPN, the world leader in sports. Yep, you're tired. Cool. If I were to go, watch this route real quick, right? Just NBA. Cool, right? That route. If I were to go to NBA.com, what do you think happens to the route? This whole domain and resource. If I wanted to see just the NBA players. /NBA, wow. Would have never guessed. Within this NBA tab, right, which we can see right here, I want to look at players. What do you think happens to the route? The full route. /NBA/players. Because if I put just players, I'm getting players from every single sporting league. And I don't want that. I just want the players from the NBA. So, wow, amazing. And then, if I were to say the greatest basketball team of all time, the New York Knicks. Thank you, New York fans. Yes, I know. Struggle with me here. What do you think happens to the route? It changes a little bit. But did it change to something that don't make no sense? Right? If I were to go to the NBA, right, would it be under players for the teams, or would it be like NBA teams / I guess roster is fine, and then there's like some name thing, I don't know, and then New York Knicks? Because what else do you think is under /NY? Other New York teams, right? Like the Brooklyn Nets. And so the idea here is that this convention is easy to read, it's easy to understand, and it makes sense with what I'm displaying. The resource that I'm currently displaying is the roster for the New York Knicks. The idea that I want you to understand is ESPN, the domain, the database, the back end for ESPN. Do you think it has in its back pocket every single player from the NHL, the NFL, or like everything else? Even though it's not displayed on this page, do you think that ESPN has this information in its database?
Yes.
Yes, right? So what I'm seeing right now, the current state of ESPN, the web application, is the New York Knicks and the roster. That's the current state of the application. I can display anything I want, but currently and right now, I'm only displaying, based on the route, the New York Knicks. Even though I have every other team, the state of my app right now is simply the New York Knicks. The point in time that I'm looking at. So, what I want to tell you about is something called REST. Does anyone know what REST stands for or have heard of REST? No? It's okay. I'm not sure if you got to that read yet. They can get kind of dry, and that's okay. Cool. REST is a convention that people follow on the internet that simply talks about the state of your application. So, this is what REST stands for in case you're like brainy and you want to know. You'll forget. I Googled it like before lecture. Right? Representational state transfer. Notice how this is like the best use of acronyms where it's like the first two letters of this word and then the first letter of every word after that. It's good acronym practice. Don't do that, yeah? The idea here is that representational state transfer, right? This simply represents something. It's the state of which our application is, and it's going to transfer that data over the internet to you. And that's really what it is. So when someone says RESTful routing, it's like, great, at what part of my website am I going to look at? Right now I'm going to have a bunch of books. I could be looking at one particular book. I could be on a page that shows me all the books. I could be on a page that shows me the reviews for a particular book. What is the state of my application? So the RESTful routing just says, what state is your application in? Right? What view are you sending? What data are you transferring and sending to the user? /shrug. You guys don't know that yet? All right, cool. Let me show you real quick. Actually, no. Let me not open Slack because there might be things on there I don't want to show you. But if you put /shrug in Slack, it's like a shortcut. You'll see. It's like this emoji of like a person like this. Yep. You're welcome. You know, students just love shortcuts, so you're welcome. All right, cool. Convention over configuration. Is this starting to make more sense to you? That if like everyone follows the same convention, then we can build things a lot faster together because there doesn't need to be that much explanation about how your app works. So for example, if I were to configure my own ESPN, and for whatever reason, I had another competitor sports website, right? I don't know, EvansPN, I guess. Let's add evanspn.com. And I wanted to show you all of the NBA players. And I put evanspn.com/best. And you'd be like, why is it called best? And I'm like, oh, well, I just think that the Knicks are the best, so that's the route I picked. Cool, but what about the Brooklyn Nets? And I'm going to put BK awesome. And you're like, why did you name it that way? And I'm like, well, because I live in Brooklyn and I think they're awesome. Like, nobody can really follow your application because you've configured it so precisely. So you're sacrificing this custom configuration for this convention that other people can quickly and easily pick up and follow. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, cool. Normally that explanation doesn't go well, but this class is like powerful. So, great. Yeah?
So, like, the convention that we're talking about is a kind of like a communication strategy that we use
everybody follows through?
I'd be careful. I'm going to repeat what you said for the rest of the class. You're saying that REST is a convention that everybody follows as a means of communication to explain the state of your application. While that is correct, and that sounded really technical, don't worry, it comes with time. Not everybody follows it, and that's okay. The idea is that most people, when they first learn, this is the framework in which you will kind of like build off of. Because if you only did things in configuration, could you ever have a custom feature? Right? Like if everything fit in this perfect machine, could you ever do anything different? Right? If you had an assembly line, could you build something unique from that assembly line? Not really. Right? So the idea is that it spins up really fast, learn it, and then do whatever you want. Cool? I'm sorry. I just thought someone said "oh" and then it's followed by like a question. So I was confused, and I'm sorry. There it is. There it is again. See the irony there? Cool. This is a really fun class. Oh man, you know, ironically, the way the schedule is slated now, I'm supposed to be your Mach 3 and 4 instructor. And before I met you, I was like, no, that'd be crazy. I would get them for 9 weeks. Would be the worst. No, learn from other devs, right? Get smarter. You're here for the knowledge. I would love to hang with you guys. All right, here we go. CRUD and how it maps to what it is that we're trying to do. All right, remember these verbs? What are they? Are they RESTful verbs, HTTP verbs, CRUD verbs, Sinatra verbs? What kind of verbs are, I said that too many times. What kind of verbs are these? HTTP, right? So HTTP verbs are separate. I'm going to teach you a lot of conventions, so silo them in your mind, right? These are HTTP verbs. Cool? This right here, this is actually pretty easy. Right? It's just CRUD. The acronym itself speaks for itself. Create, read, update, and delete. Cool? Let's just say I want to make some app, right? I have a book app. It's called Barnes & Noble. Very unique name. Thank you. Yes. Cool. And on this website, I want to do the following. I want to be able to view the information. Actually, let's start with this one. I want to view all the books. I want to see every single one of them. Just like on Instagram, right? You first log in. Do you see specific posts, or do you see this like gallery of like all the posts in your feed so far? I mean, it's probably like 9 or 10, or 9 or 12, but like what do you first see when you log in? You see like 12 little like squares, photos, and then you can click one, and then it gives you the details of that. Can you read the comments of a particular photo when you first log in and you see like all 12 hogging up your whole screen? No, right? So there's this idea that there's like a page, there's a resource that shows you all, and then there's this other page that shows you all the details of one. Right? It's very prominent in real life. Like for example, you're on Reddit, you're on Twitter, right? You see a bunch of tweets, and then you click on one, and then all the details come up, like more specific details, where you could see the extra comments, like the actual people that retweeted, like the extra details that come up, right? So let's think through, what route would you like to show all the books? Right? Okay. Can't tell if you're just helping me along or if that's really what you would do. But cool. Usually I get something like /all those books though, right? But this class is like tracking, right? So it'd be like /books. So you'd have like barnesandnoble.com/books. We'll give you a list of every single book. Now, what about the individual book? How would I, all right, I want to see if you guys are following REST for just making something up on your own. /. Okay, I see what you're saying, right? I hear a couple of things here, right? I'm hearing like book 1. Here's something like name equals, right? I hear something like ID. Now I know you're just feeding it to me. Very good. We'll just keep going. The idea here is that /books needs an identifier for that specific book. That's all you're saying. The name equals, right? /book1. It's just which book are you talking to? How do I know which book I'm actually looking at? I need to know the exact one, the identifier for it. It just so happens that we learned active record magic. What is a particular column in your database that is always unique that active record makes for you? Yes, very good, right? The ID. So we could do something like ID. Cool. What about creating a book?
/book/new.
Right? I would go into my /books resource, and then I would do /new, something like that. Right? And then naturally, if I wanted to edit a particular book, I would do what? Go into my books resource, /ID, /edit. Because what's the difference between this and this without the edit? And why do I need this ID on my edit and not on my new book route? I love how you're thinking about that. He said that the books new is a class method, right? Versus the edit is sort of like on an instance. The idea here is if I'm going to create a new book, does the ID exist when I'm trying to create the book? No. So how can I use the ID in the URL if I haven't even made the book yet? Right? That would be crazy. Cool. However, if I'm trying to edit a book, does that book exist? Yes. Very good. It does. It exists already. So naturally, I would need to know in my books a particular book that I'm going to edit. And then lastly, this delete. What do I need? /destroyerizer, right? That makes sense. I would do like destroy or like delete, something like that. This is very, very close to like actual RESTful routing conventions. So remember, these HTTP verbs tell HTTP, the hypertext transfer protocol, which one of these I'm about to do. The routes is actually inside the resource, the URL, the domain in the browser. So some of you have done some of the Sinatra labs, right? If you're doing a GET request, how would I do a GET request to google.com? And then hit return, right? I would just go google.com, hit return. Where in this URL do you see GET?
And the API controller, the application controller.
I like where your head's at, and you're jumping 2 steps ahead. But where in this URL do you see the GET? Okay, you keep saying it's right there. It is not. I don't know where you're seeing it. Okay, one more time. Just hear the question, right? Like, where do you see the GET? Right? I don't see it. If you see it and I don't, feel free to come up here, lecture, because I have no idea. Right? The idea is that the request is sent, and it's a GET request, but the actual URL in and of itself, right, is just the URL. It's just the route, just the domain. So I did, right, a request to google.com. The domain is specific. However, the resource that I asked for, actually, it's very sneaky, is just /. /nothing. Cool? Still works. It's just slash nothing. In the same way that I went to espn.com slash nothing. So then they optimize the web. They're like, oh, if it's just slash nothing, it's kind of confusing to the civilians, the non-developers. So they just took it away and they're like, oh, just gonna tuck that away there, right? And so it's just a little bit more cleaner as a user experience, but it's there. So the resource slash is just typically what the home page is. And so we don't really include the domain barnesandfoble.com inside the route. Does that make sense now? Cool. So this is what it would look like inside the browser, right? Boop, 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 dot Barnes and Foble. Very good. /books /ID. Cool. Now, if I'm writing this inside my application, right? Inside application controller or something like that, as we've discussed, just kidding. It doesn't make sense to put the domain inside the route because the domain will always be the same. If you're building an app for evanspn.com, when would you ever not have evanspn.com /something? Because the second you leave evanspn.com, you're on a different website. So you don't include the domain name inside your routing. Is that fair? Yeah. Cool. All right. In terms of just viewing and reading all this information, what kind of HTTP verb would I use? Would I use the get, post, put, patch, or delete? Get. Very good. Get good, right? Cool. This is known as the show. Because I'm going to show you all the details for this one particular book. Yeah? Cool. Now, this is a nice way to lead up to show, but this one is just not great. If I want to view all the books, what kind of HTTP verb would I use? Get, put, patch, post, or delete? Sure? Yes. I just need you to be confident. It's get. You're all right. All right? This is important. It's important that you're confident, right? What's wrong with being? What's wrong with being? You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like this Demi Lovato song. It's called Confident. What's wrong with being confident? I know. I'm not a great singer. Yeah. All right, get it out. Get it off your chest. Yeah, thank you. Clowns. All right, cool. This is known as the index. Cool. So you have the show and you have an index. I was going to try to lead you to this word. There's no sexy way to get about it unless you're in science. Oh, actually, you guys are around my age, right? You guys remember textbooks back when they were paper? And you had yes, thank you. Yes. And then you had to go to the back for all the questions and the answers. And there was the index that showed all of them. Smart. And then there was only the answers for the odd number ones. So the teacher always gave you the even ones for homework. Okay, I lost a lot of you, but that's fine. That's fine. Cool. Good to know. Good to know it's still there. All right. This is where it gets a bit hairy. And this is very important to understand and distinguish. I'm trying to create a new book. In your command line application, how did you get information from the user? Gets.chomp, right? You like how I led you there? Very good. You did something called gets.chomp. Gets.chomp, what does that look like on the internet? What does that look like in a browser? How do you ask a user for information? Yes, I heard it a couple times.
Just little squares and forms that they display on the website to let you enter stuff?
That is correct. It's little squares on websites that let you enter stuff. And you definitely said the right word. They're forms, right? Like a login form, right? Like a sign-up form, like a BMI calculator form. I found out that I was obese recently. You guys are laughing. I'm technically obese on this BMI scale. It's not a great feeling. But that's okay. All right. Laugh at my pain. So I need to be able to get some form. I need to be able to render a form to ask a user for information before I can create a book. Before I can even create the book, I need to be able to show the user a form. Okay? Keyword here, important. If I want to just simply show the form to a user, what HTTP verb would I use? Get, post, put, patch, or delete. Get, post, put, patch, or delete. Right? I want to be able to get a form, right? Okay. Yeah, no, this is intense. I would do a get to /new and I would show the user the form first. Then the form will submit some data and send it over the internet. It's gonna submit data and send it over the internet. Cool. Right. Good. There's a post here somewhere. But what route do you want to send it to? A post to /armadillo. I love the enthusiasm. It's the first, I don't know, the first word that came to my head, right? It's not armadillo. Spoiler alert. Post to /books. Cool. I could do something like post to /books new. I could, but the RESTful routing says just a post to /books is sufficient enough. So this right here, as you can see, the create action for CRUD splits into two. There has to be two requests. The first request is this get, to be able to just see the form. The second request is when the user sends the data over. It comes over, the data comes over as params, the parameters of the form, and then the server could do something with those parameters and then send you back a response, like, congratulations, you just signed up. Cool. Are there any questions as to like how create is actually two requests? Awesome. So, boom, there's a post to /books. So I said this is show and this is index, right? If you want to get some form, this is known as the new action. If I want to be able to have a form that submits some data and sends it over the internet, in here, you actually have the parameters. You have the book name, maybe the author. This is where you will actually create. Right? Because here in the new, do you have the data to create the book? No, you just have, like, hey, I want to make a new one. Great. But in here, the post, the user sent something over, the params. Here I actually have the data to create this book. Editing, believe it or not, similar. Cool? If you're going to edit something, do you have the data to edit immediately, or do you need to wait for the user to give it to you? Right. So naturally, what should be the first action inside this edit? Smart. So we're going to use this. Get to ID edit. Cool. And then I actually need to, if I'm editing, right, what would you say the actual action is in regards to the database?
Update.
It's update, right? So this right here, I'm going to call the edit. And then this right here, I'm going to call the update. So if I'm going to update, is that a get, post, delete? What HTTP verb might this be? So smart. Right? /armadillo. /book/ You sure ID? Can I just leave it as /books?
No.
Why do I need ID?
Because you need to update a specific book, right?
Smart. I need to know which book I'm actually going to update, so I have to put this in here. And then finally, delete. Which HTTP verb, I'm just going to give it to you. Just going to give it to you. It's post. Right? Cool. All right, this right here looks a bit redundant. I'm just going to do this here. Boop. A delete to books ID. Because if I'm going to make a delete request to books delete, I'm going to make a delete request to books with that ID. Each one of these are separate, distinct, different routes. Are there any questions? All right. So, the get, the post, the put patch, the delete are what type of verbs? HTTP. They tell the server how to process the request. It is not actually in the URL, but they tell the server how to process the request. Cool? Create, read, update, destroy, delete. That's CRUD. If you learned about one last thing, REST, what do you think show, index, new, create, edit, update, and delete are?
REST verbs.
They're the RESTful routes. And you have how many?
7, right?
Very good, yeah, 7. Yeah. Oh, that's tough. Cool, there are 7 RESTful routes. There are 5 HTTP verbs, but we don't really use put as often. Although you can, just know that what it's going to do. And that's replace the entire row. So you have these like 4, 5, right? HTTP verbs. You have CRUD, and then you have RESTful routing. Does everyone understand the difference? I just want you to silo them in your mind. Each one of these routes must be prefixed by an HTTP verb. And that's really it. It doesn't seem complicated, but I promise you, tomorrow we're going to go over this again. You're going to be like, great, what are the 7 REST routes? You're going to be like, yeah. I'm going to be like, cool, that's all right. We'll just do it again. All right, cool. Let's talk about MVC. Let's define some of these things. All right, the model is going to be what you already know and worked with in Mod 1. That is the interface to view and modify your data. So you have your classes, you create instances of the class, and then you update the instance attributes. So if I had a user, right, class person, and they have a name and an age and like number of teeth, right? Yeah, I was waiting for someone to be like, let's just say you're from a particular place that maybe hygiene's not as important. Your number of teeth are different, right? Thank you. Cool, this is like your data. This is the model. This is what interacts with the database, right? It uses active record magic, and you can access your data. Yes? Cool. All right, this is the view. It sounds like exactly what it is. Do you remember that powerful, amazing rack app I built earlier this morning? And all it did was it sent back like unordered list and LI tags. Okay, that's the view. That's literally what the user is going to see. The HTML that gets sent over. The browser will take it, parse it, and do something with it and make it sexy. But the view, that's really it. It's like, what is the user seeing? And then the controller. The controller is the in-between. And that is, the controller handles the route, right? If I do a get to slash books, what RESTful route is that? A get to slash books. I want to see all my books.
Get to slash books.
See?
Get to slash
See?
books.
Happened already. Cool. I want to see all my books. Embarrassing. No, it takes a long time. Don't feel bad. I literally looked this up like before lecture. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Just make sure. It's okay. So you have the controller, right? It processes the route, and that is, oh, if I do a get to slash books, what do I want to do? Do I need information from my database? And what do I want to send the user? The controller is the in-between. It represents the data and does nothing else. That's the model. The model does not depend on the controller for the view. This will make sense as we build out this application. Cool? The view just displays, and the controller provides data from the model into the view. Hopefully this makes sense. If not, it will make sense when we start writing some code. Cool? All right, and then there's just some like cool pictures. You know, I'm all about memes. Does anyone like not like memes? It's okay. You guys are laughing. I got like in the last class they were like, Evans, can you please stop using as many memes? I was like, oh, okay. This just threw me off. I like memes. All right, cool. This is what's happening. Huh? That's right. I remember now because I deleted them because for whatever reason they didn't like it, and it's okay. I could tell you're a class that likes memes, so prepare yourselves. All right. So you have this page, right? And then you go to a website. You click on a link. That does the routing. That's like a get to slash whatever. I literally clicked on MBA inside the ESPN. And that gave me a get to slash MBA. It hits the controller. The controller is like, great. The user asked for a get to slash MBA. What information do I need from the database? Do I get all the NHL players? Do I get the top 10 news bloopers? What do I get? I go and get all the NBA teams. I do like NBA teams .all, whatever it is. And then that's what's happening here. NBA team .all, right? And I'm getting literally the 30 plus teams there are. That interacts with the database because that's where it's in. It's literally in SQL, right? It's written in the rows, but active record, the ORM pulls it out for you. Like one person was like, okay, I got it. And then it returns the data to the controller. The controller now needs to take all the NBA teams that it got from the model, which talk to the database, and goes, great, how do I take all the NBA teams, put it in some sort of HTML to send back to the user so the user can now see all the NBA teams on HTML on the page. It's like this flow makes sense. That's what MVC is happening. This is what it's doing. Cool? All right. We can skip that, right? You guys are experts with the HTTP verbs and what it does, and then like mapping it in your mind to SQL. Yeah? Yes? Yeesh? Eat? I didn't want to get into it. It's not really important. It's like domain something something. I can't remember. But it's the way... I think I'll show you. I don't want you to feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, right? If you do ls, you just get all this, right? If you do ls-la, you could see that there are certain functionality that your computer can do in terms of like reading, writing, editing, executing. That's basically what's happening, right? What permissions do you have, right? This is computer science. We're in a web dev boot camp. Let's not get into this, cool? But you want there now. It's like, cool, all right. You see how it always follows like your domain? Your domain? You don't need to worry about that, right? And it's just like entries. Then a post to slash entries. A get to entries with this ID. A put, should be patch, gross. Entries ID, right? Delete entries ID. We just built that exact thing. Here. Oops. Yes, eat. Eat? No? All right. 1 minute side note. I found this Reddit it's like literally a thread that's like, hey, help me. I'm like 30 plus years old and I want to connect with my younger students. And so in this Reddit thread, it just said, walk in and just introduce yourself as like, hey, it's me, Chef, it's your boy RD. And it kept saying like, say things like yeet, yeets for cheats. And I was like, all right. And then just tell everyone you beat Fortnite. And then they'll be like, okay, great. That's the game that takes like 2 graphics, you know? So anyways, I'm hip and cool now. That backfired. Yeah, so this is RESTful routing, the 7 RESTful routes, and how they map to the URL, and how they map to the HTTP verbs. This is very important. Let's actually write some code, yeah? Don't worry, literally just these first 2 lectures are just me talking to you, and then the rest of them will like build stupid apps and write a lot of code. Cool? Here I just have an adapter. All it does is, I'm just gonna like break it down for you super fast. It hits this URL, and then it just pulls in the author, the title, maybe like a snippet, like some summary about it. It downcases it, takes max result of 20, and then it will create new instances for me. I will upload this code as I will upload every single lecture and the video. You can take a look at it later. This is known as the adapter pattern, and you will learn this a lot more as you get to like Mod 3 and as you like level up. Cool? That's all this does. It just connects to Google for me and creates objects. You guys learn about the schema, right? So this is my schema. I just have books with authors, titles, and snippets, and this is my migration. Nothing wild. I have some seed data in here, and all it does is it runs the adapter. What is this double semicolon again? Namespacing. Sound familiar? Yes? No? Yes? Cool. All right. And then it just runs .fetch books. So I have a new adapter, where it creates a new instance of the adapter class, passing in the author name, running a method called fetch books. Is this an instance or a class method? When I do .new, I'm creating a, and then I'm running the instance method. All right. So let's take a look at what's happening. I'm creating a new adapter. And then I'm running something called fetch books. And all it does is a web request with the URL, which is this, and then just makes instances for me, right? So, is everyone cool? Like, you don't have to fully understand this. Just know that I've got a bunch of books that I pulled from Google. All right? Airborne. Great. Great. So I'm in my application controller. Cool. We're just going to start with that because the controller talks to the view and the model. I do a get to slash, and all it's going to do is put, do I really get, oh man, I don't like that. Yeet. Cool. All right. And then it's going to, what is this ERB index? What file? Let's get rid of that. Huh? In my views, I don't have anything called index, right? So let's create it. Bloop. Index.erb. Bloop. I'm just going to put h1 and says this is the index. Smiley face, but you can also drop for realsies emojis. You like that? You like that? All right. It's always the same. There's always this like a basic reaction. You're like, oh, emojis. Command Control Spacebar will open up this, and then you can go yeet, and it'll actually render. Cool. So in my application controller, if I do a get to slash, it'll put yeet, and then it will render this ERB. So let's take a look. How do I make that happen? Shotgun. Thank you. Yeah. Last time I did that, the last class knew I was in the Army, and they were like, oh man, that PTSD is kicking in. And I was just like, all right, cool. Yeah, I know. I got a bunch of like, oh, I'm fine. You know? All right. Huh. Wonder where this came from. Let's take a look at what happened. I did a get to slash. Does everyone understand how this happened? Cool. All right. And then puts yeet, and then ERB index. Where's this yeet? Right here. So puts writes to the console, and then ERB will render the view. That's the response that gets sent back to the user. Cool? You can see every single network request right here. Get to slash. Because that's where I went, right? I can prove this by, let's say I went to this website. Let's pull up this thing right here. If I went to get to slash your boy, what happens? It tries to do a get to slash your boy, but that route does not exist, right? A get to slash your boy, does that exist right now?
No.
No. How can I make this route exist?
Just copy paste the error message.
Or I could just do a get to slash your boyo, right? And it's going to do something. And then what do I want it to do? Well, what do you guys think, right? I mean, I can hard code some HTML in here, right? I can just be like, great, here's an H1 tag. That didn't work. I can like literally hard code some HTML and that's what it'll respond with. Or I could tell it what file to respond with. And I can ERB also index if I wanted to. So let's check it out. Boom. Even though the route is, your boy, it's rendering the index because I told it to. So you could see the controller will process the route. It does something and sends back a view. Let's do this instead. Let's do a get to slash books. All right, which RESTful route is this? A get to slash books, which will show me all my books. Yeah, y'all hesitate a little bit. That's okay. I mean, it takes a long time. I have to hammer rest into your brains. Cool. So I need to do two things, right? The first thing is I need to know, is there something I need from my model? And then I need to know what view I should send. But really, it's not always the view. What I'm going to talk about here is known as what is the response I want to send back. So the model and the response. In my slash books, I need to show all the books. How can I get all the books? Book.all. Right? Models are singular. I'll just let that go. It's okay. See, I let it go, but I'll do the same mistake, and the students are like right at me. I'll make a typo. Oh, you spelled that wrong. I'm like, all right. I was a little friendlier to you, but that's cool. I've booked.all, right? And what I want to do is I want to send this into the view, right? Well, what view do I want to send? Like something like all the books. Books, eat, right? But what is this? What is the RESTful route here? What is the RESTful? Right here. Right, I could just do index. Cool. Again, I'm a dirtbag. I just want to do index. Takes a little bit. Index is all of them. Cool. Is that the new class? Oh, hello. Oh, I scared them. It's okay. So inside ERB, right, I need to do something with this book.all. And I'm just going to explain how this is working at a very high level. What word is this? Cool. Very good, class. Do you like that? Meta. So, thank you, I guess. Feel free to make fun of me. It brings you all closer. So, this class, right? It's fine. I am weird. This class, I can create instances of this class. And instance attributes look like this. Yeah. So if I create, this is how Sinatra works, similar to Rails. I will create a new class of instance application controller running this method, and then I pass in this instance variable. So here I'm just going to call it books, because that's basically what it is, right? Book.all is equal to books. What this allows me to do this instance variable, this at. It allows me to have access to it inside the view. So inside index ERB, I have something called at books. This right here, however, takes, what is this H1? What language is this?
HTML.
HTML, right? But this, it looked like a Ruby, right? So I need to interpolate the Ruby. Oh yeah, you guys like that? All right, here we go. If you put equal tab, it'll build it for you, right? Minus tab, it'll build it without. Yeah, I know, powerful. If you download a package, right? So you hit Command, comma. You can go to install, and you could search packages. It's called Rails snippets, right? This one right here. Yeah, this one's fine. Cool. What you could do is you could hit Command Shift period, and it'll cycle through all of them. Man, you guys this nice to Alex? Oh, wait till you get to Mike Chang, master of shortcuts. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can hold Command and create more, and just like multi-line, right? Yeah, you can do a lot of cool stuff. Either way, the point is, right? What this is saying is I'm going to embed Ruby. I'm going to interpolate Ruby inside my HTML. That's why this extension is called ERB, embedded Ruby. Cool? In the same way that at books, let's think through and see how good your active record is. Book. Oh, don't worry, it's fine. Book.all, what does that return me? Huh? An array-like object. It's an active record collection. So if I do at books, what should I see here? An array of book objects, instances of books, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good, I have console here. Cool. So I can just cancel this. I can go into my rake console. And I can check out what is book. Book.all. Oh, okay, I didn't make any. Embarrassing. Rake db seed. Great. Just kidding. Rake db migrate. See, I'm reading these error messages. It says you didn't migrate. Cool. Now I've migrated. Now I can run. If you press up, you just like go through your history. All right, some of you were like, all right, Evans, I got it. But like, I don't actually know. All right, cool. All right, rake. Thanks. Right, I can check my book.all, and I will see, right, an array-like object of books and some snippet data. Boom, 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 boom. If you press Q, you just bang out of it, right? I can do book.first. If I do book.all and I check to see what the class is, it's an active record collection. It is not an array. However, I can obviously iterate over it, as you know. So books.each do with the book. Bloop, bloop, bloop. A little end action. Do I want to show the iterator on my page?
No.
No, that'd be trash user experience, right? Cool. I could just show the book. What would this show? Just the object, right? Do I want the object? No, what do I really want though? Smart. Cool. If I go to /aboy, right, what do I get? I get the index. Cool? Let's take a look at what happens. Oh, embarrassing. Embarrassing. Shotgun! Cool. Undefined method each for this nil-nil class. Which is weird because, at books is here. Does at books exist inside here?
No.
No, it does not. But at books exists here. So if I were to go back and go, I don't know, /books, does at books, oh, what the? This should, hold on. Oh my God, I didn't save it. I know. I tried to make a really cool point, and it did not work. I was still right about your boy, though. Right? Just so you know. Fine. See? Exactly. Cool. But slash books, and it just iterates through all of them. Does that make sense? We are about to get kicked out, right? But I do want to show you one very important thing, and that is, cool. We're going to go into the show action, all right? And I want to do slash ID. If I put the symbol in here, right, I'm going to do this super fast, and then I'll explain. At book equals to book.find with the params. I'll explain this here in a second. The params are what comes across. This is being interpolated. These are the params. So at book will exist. There's some show page. It's not really important. The thing is, I can drop a bloop bloop. Is it bybug or binding price still here? I think it's binding price. Let's do this. How can I hit this route? How can I hit this route right here? This route. Cool. Slash books slash, I don't know, 2. So the ID is now 2. I can pause my code. You see it just hanging there? And see what my params are. And it points to ID 2. If I were to change this, right, to dragon man, dragon face, whatever, right? Very good. Super cool. And I were to say, I don't know, 3. What do you think params are? Dang it. Okay, my keyboard like froze on this. The idea is that params will come across and it'll say dragon face points to 2. Cool? Or 3, I'm sorry. Yeah, I changed to 3. Very good. Cool? So that's how that's working. So that's why ID of 2 will work inside this code because book.find is going to pass in number 2. So now at book will be the second book ID. Cool? All right. That's all I have for you. We will wrap up more tomorrow, but good luck on your labs. Thanks.